Jasmine Reynolds, CEO of Phoenix Tech, frozen in disbelief as flight attendant Brittany sides with Bradley Armstrong who took her first-class seat. The intercom crackles, this aircraft is being grounded due to a security situation. All eyes turn to her as realization dawns. Before we dive into this shocking story, where are you watching from today? Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever witnessed discrimination happening right before your eyes. The events that unfolded on this Atlanta to San Francisco flight will leave you questioning everything about justice in America today. Jasmine Reynolds started her morning like any other CEO of a multimillion-dollar tech company, with precision and purpose. At 36, she had already accomplished what most people only dreamed of, founding and scaling Phoenix Innovations into one of the most promising artificial intelligence companies in the country. Today's stakes were particularly high. A meeting with potential investors in San Francisco could secure $50 million in funding that would catapult her company to the next level. Her alarm chimed at 4:30, though she was already awake, mentally rehearsing her presentation. Jasmine's penthouse apartment in downtown Atlanta offered a stunning view of the city skyline, the same city where she had launched her company 5 years ago after graduating from MIT with dual PhDs in computer science and artificial intelligence. The journey hadn't been easy. As a black woman in tech, she had faced double the scrutiny, double the questioning, and half the benefit of the doubt that her white male counterparts received. "You got this, Jazz," she whispered to herself as she selected her power suit, a tailored navy ensemble with subtle gold accents that projected confidence without intimidation. Her natural hair was styled in a sophisticated updo that had taken years to feel confident wearing in professional settings. Each element of her appearance was calculated, another armor piece in a world that constantly questioned her belonging. Her driver, Terrell, arrived precisely at 5:15, giving her ample time to reach Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for her 7 o'clock flight. During the ride, she reviewed her presentation once more, focusing on the market expansion projections that would most interest Horizon Ventures, the investment group she was meeting. "We're here, Ms. Reynolds," Terrell announced as they pulled up to the departures terminal. "Good luck with your meeting. Though you've never needed luck, just the opportunity to show them how brilliant you are." Jasmine smiled, appreciating his unwavering support. "Thanks, Terrell. I'll text when I land." The VIP check-in experience was smooth, one of the perks of her frequent business travel and first-class ticket. The attendant at the counter greeted her with professional courtesy, checking her single carry-on bag and issuing her boarding pass for seat 2A. Security was expedited through the priority lane, and within 20 minutes of entering the airport, Jasmine was seated in the airline lounge, responding to early morning emails while sipping green tea. When boarding was announced, Jasmine gathered her leather portfolio and designer handbag, joining the priority boarding group. The gate agent scanned her boarding pass with a smile. "Enjoy your flight, Ms. Reynolds." Walking down the jet bridge, Jasmine mentally shifted gears from email mode to presentation mode, reviewing key talking points. She nodded politely to the flight attendants as she stepped onto the aircraft, turning right toward the first-class cabin. The familiar leather seats and extra legroom were welcome sights for the 5-hour flight ahead. But as she approached row 2, Jasmine stopped abruptly. A white man in his early 40s was comfortably settled in seat 2A, her seat. He wore an expensive but slightly rumpled suit, his tie loosened, with an air of entitled relaxation as he scrolled through his phone. Jasmine double-checked her boarding pass to confirm. "Excuse me," she said with practiced politeness, "I believe you're in my seat." The man barely glanced up. "No, I don't think so." His dismissive tone suggested the conversation was already over. "My boarding pass says 2A, Jasmine persisted, holding out the document. "Would you mind checking yours?" With an exaggerated sigh, the man looked up, his gaze moving from Jasmine's face to her boarding pass without actually examining the latter. "Look, I'm settled in now. There are plenty of other seats." He gestured vaguely toward the back of the plane. Jasmine maintained her professional composure, though she felt a familiar tension building in her shoulders. I specifically reserved this seat. Would you please check your boarding pass? The man's expression hardened. I said I'm in my seat. His voice rose slightly, drawing attention from nearby passengers who were still boarding. Jasmine noticed a flight attendant approaching, a young white woman with Brittany Walker on her name tag. Perfect timing, Jasmine thought. This will be resolved quickly. Is there a problem? Brittany asked, looking between them. Yes, Jasmine replied calmly. I'm assigned to seat 2A, but this gentleman is sitting in it and refusing to verify his seat assignment. Brittany turned to the man. Sir, could I see your boarding pass please? With obvious reluctance, he pulled up an electronic boarding pass on his phone and flashed it briefly. See? All good. Jasmine caught a glimpse of a completely different seat number, somewhere in economy class, but Brittany merely nodded. Ma'am, Brittany said, turning to Jasmine, perhaps you misread your boarding pass. Let me see it. Jasmine handed over her boarding pass, the seat number 2A clearly printed. Brittany glanced at it, then back at the man who was now wearing a smug smile. Well, Brittany said hesitantly, since the gentleman is already settled, would you mind taking another first-class seat? I believe 4C is open. Jasmine blinked in disbelief. But my assigned seat is 2A. It's clearly printed right there. It would really help us maintain our departure schedule, Brittany pressed, lowering her voice. It's just one flight. The implications were clear. Despite having a valid boarding pass, despite being in the right, Jasmine was being asked to accommodate the white man who had taken her seat. She felt eyes on her from other passengers, some curious, some already filming with their phones. The familiar internal calculation began. Stand her ground and risk being labeled an angry black woman, or acquiesce to keep the peace. But something in Jasmine refused to bend this time. Maybe it was the crucial meeting ahead, or maybe it was simply having endured one too many such moments in her life. No, she said firmly but quietly. I reserved 2A specifically for this flight. It's my assigned seat, and I'd like to sit in it. The gentleman can move to his actual assigned seat. Brittany's smile tightened. The man in 2A scoffed. And just like that, what should have been a simple airplane boarding became yet another battleground. Look, honey, Bradley said, his voice dripping with condescension as he shifted in Jasmine's rightful seat. I understand there might be some confusion, but this is definitely my seat. He emphasized the word my, as if speaking to a child. Jasmine felt her jaw tighten but maintained her professional demeanor. There's no confusion. My boarding pass clearly states 2A. Could you please check yours again, properly this time? Bradley's expression darkened. I don't know how you got into first class, but you should be grateful for any seat up here. For C is by the window too, you know. His implication was crystal clear, he didn't believe she belonged in first class at all. Excuse me. Jasmine's voice remained level despite the insulting insinuation. What exactly do you mean by that? I mean, Bradley lowered his voice, though not enough to prevent nearby passengers from hearing, first-class tickets are expensive. Like, really expensive. Are you sure you didn't get upgraded by mistake? It happens sometimes with the airlines, diversity initiatives. A few gasps came from nearby passengers. The microaggression was so blatant that even casual observers couldn't miss it. Jasmine felt a familiar heat rising in her chest. The same feeling she'd experienced in countless boardrooms, venture capital meetings, and industry conferences. I'm the CEO of Phoenix Innovations, Jasmine stated, retrieving her company ID from her purse and holding it up. I fly first class twice a week for business. This isn't about diversity initiatives, it's about the seat I paid for. Bradley gave her ID a dismissive glance. Oh, I see. You're the diversity hire. I'm sure your company has excellent quotas. He chuckled as if they were sharing an inside joke. Jasmine's phone began to ring in her purse, her custom ringtone for Aiden, her executive assistant. The call that would likely be about the investors waiting in San Francisco. She couldn't answer it now, not in the middle of this confrontation. "Sir, that comment is completely inappropriate," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "I founded the company. Now please move to your assigned seat so we can all proceed with our day." More passengers were watching now. Some looked uncomfortable, while others had their phones raised, recording the interaction. Jasmine noticed a second flight attendant approaching, a young white man with "Tyler" on his name tag. "What seems to be the problem?" Tyler asked, looking between Bradley and Jasmine. Before Jasmine could speak, Bradley jumped in. "This woman is trying to take my seat and causing a scene. I've been very patient, but we're delaying the flight now." Tyler turned to Jasmine with immediate suspicion. "Ma'am, we need to maintain order for on-time departure." "If the gentleman is in his assigned seat, he is not," Jasmine interrupted, her patience wearing thin. "My boarding pass clearly shows I'm assigned to 2A. He hasn't even properly shown his boarding pass to anyone." "I showed it to the other attendant," Bradley insisted. "She verified I'm in the right seat." Brittany nodded unconvincingly. "He did show me something, yes." The situation was spiraling into absurdity. Jasmine felt transported back to her first major investor meeting, where despite being the founder with the technical expertise, questions were directed to her male marketing director. Or to the technology conference where she was repeatedly asked if she was part of the catering staff. Or to the countless times she'd been asked to prove her credentials while white male colleagues were taken at their word. Her missed call notification appeared on her watch. The investors. This was going to impact her entire business if not resolved quickly. "I need to speak with the captain," Jasmine said firmly, abandoning the path of least resistance. "This situation is unacceptable." "That won't be necessary," Tyler began, but Bradley interrupted. "Actually, I'd like to speak to the captain too. I'm feeling threatened." His emphasis on the word "threatened" was deliberate. Weaponizing language often used against black people, particularly black men, in confrontations with authorities. The absurdity of a white man in an expensive suit claiming to feel threatened by a professional black woman calmly asking for her assigned seat wasn't lost on some passengers, who exchanged knowing glances. Tyler hesitated, then nodded. "I'll get the captain." As he walked away, Bradley leaned toward Jasmine with a smirk. "You people always have to make everything so difficult." Jasmine didn't respond. She'd learned long ago that engaging with such blatant racism only gave it oxygen. Instead, she checked her watch again, 20 minutes since boarding began, and they were still at the gate. Her meeting was slipping further away with each passing minute. Captain Warren appeared a few moments later, a tall white man in his 50s with gray at his temples. His expression was one of barely concealed annoyance. "What's the situation here?" he asked, looking first at Bradley rather than Jasmine. "This passenger is causing a disruption," Bradley began smoothly. "I'm in my assigned seat, and she's insisting it's hers. I've shown my boarding pass to the attendant who verified I'm correct." Captain Warren turned to Jasmine, his assessment already visibly formed. "Ma'am, we need to maintain order on this aircraft, Captain," Jasmine interrupted, her voice firm but professional. "I am Jasmine Reynolds, CEO of Phoenix Innovations. I have a first-class ticket for seat 2A, which this gentleman is occupying without showing proper documentation. I've been nothing but calm and reasonable, despite the increasingly hostile and racially charged comments being directed at me." She held out her boarding pass. "Please verify for yourself." The captain looked at her boarding pass, then at Bradley. "Sir, could I see your boarding pass as well?" Bradley's confidence wavered slightly. "I already showed it to the flight attendant." "I'd like to see it myself, please," Captain Warren insisted. With obvious reluctance, Bradley pulled out his phone again and displayed his boarding pass. The captain leaned in to examine it. "Sir, this is for seat 28E, in economy class," Captain Warren stated flatly. Bradley's face flushed. "There must be some mistake." "The only mistake," Captain Warren replied, "is that you're sitting in the wrong seat. Please gather your belongings and move to your assigned seat." Just as it seemed the situation would finally be resolved, the intercom crackled to life. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the gate agent speaking. We're experiencing a slight delay in our departure. Please remain seated and patient while we resolve this issue." Bradley made no move to collect his things. "I paid for first class. My boarding pass must be wrong. I'm not moving to economy." Captain Warren's expression hardened. "Sir, the manifest clearly shows Ms. Reynolds assigned to 2A. You need to move to your assigned seat immediately." "This is ridiculous," Bradley snapped. "Do you know who I am? I'm Bradley Armstrong from Pinnacle Investment Group. I'll have your job for this." The growing commotion had drawn even more attention. Additional crew members had gathered near the front of the plane. Jasmine stood in the aisle, still denied her rightful seat, watching precious minutes tick away, taking her crucial investor meeting with them. "Captain," she said quietly, "I have an extremely important business meeting in San Francisco. Is there any way we can resolve this quickly?" Before he could answer, Bradley interjected, "Oh, so now we're supposed to accommodate her schedule? What about my important meetings?" Captain Warren raised a hand for silence. "This is becoming a security issue. If we can't resolve this immediately, we'll need to return to the gate." The words hung in the air like a threat. One that would punish everyone on board for Bradley's behavior. Jasmine felt the weight of dozens of stares, some sympathetic, others annoyed, all focused on the confrontation that she hadn't started but was now the center of. All because she had dared to ask for what was rightfully hers. As tension filled the first-class cabin, an elderly white woman in seat 3B slowly stood up. Her silver hair was styled in an elegant bob, and despite her age, somewhere in her 70s, she carried herself with undeniable authority. "Excuse me," she said, her voice clear and commanding. "I've been observing this situation since it began, and I feel compelled to speak up." All eyes turned to her, including Bradley's, whose expression flickered between annoyance and calculation. "My name is Diana Thompson," she continued. "I served as a federal judge for 32 years before retiring. What I'm witnessing here is a textbook case of discrimination and harassment." She turned to address the flight crew directly. "Your handling of this situation has been appallingly biased. This gentleman," she gestured to Bradley, "took a seat that wasn't assigned to him, made racially charged comments when challenged, and has been treated with deference despite being clearly in the wrong." Brittany shifted uncomfortably, while Tyler's face flushed red. Captain Warren cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we're working to resolve, not effectively." "You're not," Diana interrupted. "I'd like to see the flight manifest immediately. That should settle the question of assigned seating beyond any doubt." From several rows back, a young Latino man raised his hand. "I recognize Ms. Reynolds," he called out. "I'm Miguel Hernandez from Tectonic Software. We use Phoenix Innovations AI solutions." Ms. Reynolds spoke at the National Tech Summit last year. She's one of the most respected leaders in the industry. Miguel held up his phone, where he'd pulled up Jasmine's professional profile. She was named to Fortune's 40 Under 40 last year and has raised over $80 million in previous funding rounds. She's literally one of the most successful tech CEOs in the country. Bradley scoffed. "So what? That doesn't give her the right to bully her way into my seat." "It's not your seat," Diana stated firmly. "And gaslighting her by pretending otherwise doesn't change the facts." Would you comment? 1. If you've ever witnessed someone being discriminated against and felt powerless to help. Hit that like button if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with equal respect regardless of their race or gender. And subscribe to stay updated on stories that expose the reality of discrimination in America today. The whispers among passengers grew louder. A college-aged girl with bright blue hair was filming the entire interaction from row 5. "I'm Zoe," she announced. "I'm recording this because people need to see what's happening. This is exactly the kind of everyday racism that goes undocumented." Jasmine felt her phone vibrating again. Another call from Aiden. The investor meeting was slipping further away with each passing minute. She glanced at her watch, 35 minutes since boarding began, and they were still at the gate. Her mind flashed back to her grandmother's kitchen in Chicago, the smell of peach cobbler in the air as Grandma Rose dispensed wisdom along with dessert. "Baby girl, you'll have to be twice as good to get half as far. But never let them see you bend. Standing tall isn't just about your posture, it's about your spirit." Jasmine had carried those words through MIT's challenging halls, through venture capital meetings where she was the only woman and the only black person, through building a company from the ground up. She wasn't about to forget them now. Diana Thompson was still speaking, her judge's authority evident in every word. "I want to see the manifest now. Not in 5 minutes, not after more discussion. Now." Tyler reluctantly departed to retrieve the document, while Brittany fidgeted with her hands. "This is ridiculous," Bradley muttered, though his confidence was visibly wavering. "All this fuss over a seat." "It's not about the seat," Diana replied sharply. "It's about the entitlement that made you think you could take what wasn't yours, and the bias that made the crew initially support you without evidence." Miguel had stood up and moved closer to the front. "Ms. Reynolds, I just looked up your company's latest AI breakthrough. The autonomous decision-making algorithm you developed is revolutionary. I'd be happy to explain to anyone here exactly why Ms. Reynolds is someone who deserves our respect, not our suspicion." Bradley's face darkened. "Nobody asked for your opinion. Stay out of this." "Or what?" Miguel challenged. "You'll claim to feel threatened by me too?" The tension was electric when Tyler returned with the printed manifest. Captain Warren took it and reviewed the seat assignments. According to the official manifest, he announced, Seat 2A is indeed assigned to Jasmine Reynolds. And Mr. Armstrong is assigned to Seat 28E. Bradley's face flushed deep red. There must be some mistake. The only mistake, Diana Thompson interjected, was the crew's failure to verify this information immediately when the dispute arose. Jasmine felt her phone buzzing again. She glanced down to see a text from Aiden. "Investors getting impatient. Threatening to meet with Apex Tech instead if you're not here by 2 p.m. Her heart sank. Everything she'd worked for was slipping away because one entitled man couldn't accept that a black woman belonged in first class. How many of you have been in a situation where someone doubted your credentials or right to be somewhere based on your appearance? What would you have done in Jasmine's position, stand your ground or try to avoid conflict? Let me know in the comments below." "Captain," Jasmine said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside, "I have investors waiting in San Francisco who are threatening to pull a $50 million deal if I'm late. Every minute we delay puts my entire company at risk." Captain Warren looked genuinely concerned. "I understand, Ms. Reynolds." "Sir," he turned to Bradley, "you need to move to your assigned seat immediately." "And what if I refuse?" Bradley challenged, crossing his arms. "Then you'll be removed from the aircraft," the captain stated flatly. "This is no longer a seating dispute. It's becoming a security issue." Bradley looked around, seemingly searching for allies among the other passengers. Finding none, he turned his glare to Jasmine. "This is what's wrong with corporate America now. Unqualified people getting ahead because of how they look, not what they can do." The comment hung in the air, so blatantly racist that several passengers gasped. Zoe, still filming, called out, "Got that on video too, sir. I'm sure your company will be interested to see it." For the first time, a flicker of genuine concern crossed Bradley's face. But rather than backing down, he doubled down. "Are you threatening me now?" "Captain, these people are ganging up on me. I don't feel safe. Diana Thompson shook her head in disgust. In my 32 years on the bench, I've seen this tactic countless times. When privilege is challenged, claim victimhood. Jasmine stood silently in the aisle, the weight of a lifetime of similar moments pressing down on her shoulders. This was hardly the first time she'd had to prove she belonged somewhere, hardly the first time she'd watched as her qualifications were questioned while less qualified white men were given the benefit of the doubt. But it was the first time she stood to lose a company-transforming deal because of it. The standoff continued as a new figure appeared at the front of the cabin. A tall black man in an airport security uniform. His name badge read, Terrence Jackson, Senior Security Officer. Bradley immediately straightened in the seat, Jasmine's seat, and adjusted his tie. Finally, he said loudly, "Officer, I've been harassed and threatened by these passengers simply for sitting in my assigned seat." Officer Jackson surveyed the scene with practiced neutrality. "I understand there's a seating dispute that's preventing departure. Captain Warren briefed me on the situation, but I'd like to review the documentation myself." "Of course," Jasmine said, handing over her boarding pass again. "I'm assigned to seat 2A, which this gentleman is currently occupying despite being assigned to an economy seat." Bradley huffed. "That's not true. There's been a mistake in the system." Officer Jackson turned to him. "May I see your boarding pass, sir?" With visible reluctance, Bradley displayed his electronic boarding pass. Officer Jackson studied it carefully. "This clearly shows you're assigned to seat 28E, sir." "Then the system made a mistake," Bradley insisted. "I always fly first class." Officer Jackson consulted the manifest Captain Warren had retrieved earlier. According to the manifest, Ms. Reynolds is indeed assigned to 2A, and you are assigned to 28E. The system doesn't appear to have made any mistake. Check when the boarding passes were issued, Diana Thompson suggested from her seat. If there was a legitimate change or upgrade, it would be time-stamped. Officer Jackson nodded and examined both documents more closely. After a moment, his expression changed subtly. "Mr. Armstrong, according to the records, you checked in for Flight 1372 to San Francisco at 5:42 a.m. and were assigned seat 28E. You did not purchase a first-class ticket, nor were you upgraded by the airline." He turned to look directly at Bradley. "So I'm curious how you ended up in first class, specifically in Ms. Reynolds' assigned seat." Before Bradley could answer, Zoe stood up. "I have video that might explain it," she said, moving forward with her phone. "I was filming for my travel vlog when I caught this." She held up her phone, showing footage of Bradley entering the first-class cabin, checking seat numbers, then deliberately removing a small bag from seat 2A and placing it in the overhead bin before sitting down. "That's my personal item," Jasmine confirmed, recognizing her designer laptop sleeve. "I always board early and place it in my seat while I organize my carry-on in the overhead bin." Officer Jackson's expression hardened. "So you deliberately moved another passenger's belongings and took their seat, Mr. Armstrong?" Bradley's facade finally cracked. "Look, I had a middle seat in economy. Do you know how uncomfortable those are for a 5-hour flight? Anyone would have done the same thing." "No," Diana interjected firmly. "Most people respect assigned seating and certainly don't resort to lies and racial intimidation when caught." Miguel stepped forward. "I recognize this man now. Bradley Armstrong was involved in a discrimination lawsuit at Tech Dynamic last year. Several female employees of color filed complaints about his behavior." Bradley's face contorted with anger. "That's slander. You can't just, it was in the Wall Street Journal," Miguel continued calmly. "The company settled out of court but restructured his department afterward." Officer Jackson turned to Bradley. "Sir, at this point, you have two options. You can collect your belongings and move to your assigned seat in economy, or you can deplane and take another flight." "This is outrageous," Bradley sputtered. "Do you know who I am?" Yes, Officer Jackson replied coolly. You're the passenger in seat 28E who is currently preventing an aircraft from departing and harassing another passenger with discriminatory language. Jasmine's phone rang again. This time, with Officer Jackson handling the situation, she felt she could briefly answer. Aiden, I'm still on the ground in Atlanta, she said quickly. There's been a situation, Ms. Reynolds. Aiden's voice was tight with stress. The investors are threatening to walk. They've got a meeting with Apex Tech this afternoon as well. Put me on speaker, Jasmine instructed, an idea forming. Let them hear exactly what's happening. As Aiden connected the call to the conference room in San Francisco, Jasmine explained the situation concisely. I'm currently being prevented from reaching our meeting because a man took my assigned seat, made racist comments when I asked for it back, and is refusing to move despite airline confirmation that he's in the wrong seat. There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a deep voice, Lawrence Patterson, the lead investor, responded. Ms. Reynolds, are you saying your flight is delayed because of a racial discrimination incident? Yes, Jasmine confirmed. And it's currently being filmed by several passengers. Another voice chimed in, Patricia Winters, the only woman on the investment committee. That's unacceptable. Please keep us updated on when you'll be able to depart. The tone had shifted from impatience to concern. Jasmine felt a small measure of relief as she ended the call. Captain Warren approached Officer Jackson. We need to resolve this quickly. We're already 45 minutes delayed. Officer Jackson nodded. Mr. Armstrong, this is your final opportunity to move voluntarily to your assigned seat. Otherwise, you will be escorted off this aircraft. Bradley looked around at the unsympathetic faces surrounding him. Fine, he spat, gathering his belongings. But I'll be filing a complaint about how I was treated. As he stood to leave, he leaned close to Jasmine and whispered, You people always play the race card. Nobody's buying it. Unfortunately for Bradley, Zoe was still filming and caught his comment clearly on video. That sounded like a threat, Mr. Armstrong, Diana Thompson said loudly. As a former federal judge, I'd be happy to provide a witness statement regarding your behavior today. Bradley stormed toward economy class, but Officer Jackson stopped him. Sir, given your behavior and the threatening comment you just made, I'll need you to deplane. We can book you on a later flight after we've completed an incident report. You can't be serious, Bradley protested. This is now a security matter, Officer Jackson stated firmly. Captain, I believe we need to deplane this passenger. Captain Warren nodded grimly. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced to the cabin, due to a security situation, this flight is being temporarily grounded. We apologize for the inconvenience. Jasmine felt a wave of despair wash over her. Even with Bradley being removed, the delay meant her meeting was almost certainly lost. 5 years of building Phoenix innovations, countless nights of work, all potentially undone because one entitled man couldn't accept a black woman in first class. As she checked her phone again, she saw another text from Aiden, investors giving ultimatum. If you're not here by 3 p.m., they're signing with Apex instead. Even if the plane departed immediately, she would never make it in time. 2 police officers boarded the plane minutes later, Officer Ramirez, a Latina woman with her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, and Officer Johnson, a white man with a military-style haircut. They conferred briefly with Officer Jackson and Captain Warren at the front of the cabin. Bradley, who had been standing uncomfortably in the aisle, immediately straightened his posture and fixed his tie when he saw the officers. As they approached, he extended his hand to Officer Johnson with a practiced smile. Officer, thank you for coming. I'm Bradley Armstrong, Senior VP at Pinnacle Investment Group. There's been a misunderstanding here. Officer Johnson didn't take the offered hand, instead glancing at his partner. Officer Ramirez took the lead. Mr. Armstrong, we understand there's been a seating dispute that escalated into disruptive behavior. That's not accurate, Bradley said smoothly. I was simply trying to resolve a seating confusion when several other passengers began harassing me. Officer Ramirez pulled out a small notebook. Let's get statements from all parties involved. Ms. Reynolds, can you tell me what happened from your perspective? Jasmine recounted the events clearly and factually, from finding Bradley in her assigned seat to his refusal to move even after official verification. She mentioned his comments about diversity hires and playing the race card, but kept her tone professional and even. When she finished, Bradley scoffed. That's completely exaggerated. I never said anything about race. Actually, sir, you did, Diana Thompson interjected from her seat. Multiple times, and it's on video. Officer Johnson turned to Diana. And you are? Diana Thompson, retired federal judge, Northern District of Georgia. I witnessed the entire incident from my seat in 3B. Mr. Armstrong made several explicitly racist comments and implied Ms. Reynolds didn't belong in first class. Officer Ramirez made notes while Officer Johnson's expression became more serious. Are there other witnesses willing to provide statements? Several hands went up throughout the cabin, including Miguel's and Zoe's. I have video, Zoe volunteered, stepping forward with her phone. I captured most of the interaction, including when he took the seat and moved Ms. Reynolds' belongings. The officers reviewed the footage, their expressions growing more concerned as they watched. Bradley shifted his weight from foot to foot, his confident facade beginning to crack. This looks pretty clear-cut, Officer Johnson said finally. Mr. Armstrong, you took a seat that wasn't assigned to you, refused to move when confronted with evidence, and made inappropriate comments that disrupted the flight. I want to press charges, Bradley suddenly announced. For harassment and intimidation. I felt threatened by all these people ganging up on me. Officer Ramirez raised an eyebrow. Sir, the evidence doesn't support that claim. In fact, the video shows you were the aggressor in this situation. While the officers continued gathering statements, Bradley took advantage of a moment when they stepped away to confer with Captain Warren. He leaned toward Jasmine with a cold smile. You've made a serious enemy today, he whispered. I have connections at every major tech investment firm in the country. One word from me, and your precious little company will never see another dollar of funding. Zoe, who had moved closer, captured the threat on video. Got that too, she announced loudly. Diana Thompson immediately stood up. Officers, Mr. Armstrong just threatened Ms. Reynolds with financial retaliation. I witnessed it, as did this young woman who recorded it. Bradley's face flushed deep red. This is ridiculous. I'm being set up here. Captain Warren, who had been conferring with the flight crew, approached with a grave expression. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to make an announcement. Due to the ongoing security situation, this flight is officially grounded. All passengers will need to deplane while we resolve this matter. A collective groan rose from the cabin. Passengers who had been silently watching the drama unfold now realized it would impact their own travel plans. This is all your fault, Bradley hissed at Jasmine. If you had just taken another seat like you were told, none of this would have happened. Officer Johnson overheard the comment. Mr. Armstrong, that's enough. You're coming with us to the terminal to complete an incident report. Depending on the airline's decision, you may be facing charges for interfering with flight crew duties. As Bradley was escorted off the plane, he continued making comments under his breath, some with racial overtones that several nearby passengers clearly heard. Jasmine remained in the aisle, feeling a complex mix of emotions. On one hand, justice was being served. Bradley's behavior was being addressed, and multiple witnesses had stood up for what was right. On the other hand, she had lost the battle that mattered most to her. The flight was grounded, and she would miss her investor meeting. 5 years of work. $50 million. Her company's future. All slipping away because one entitled man couldn't accept her presence in first class. As passengers began collecting their belongings to deplane, several stopped to express support. "What happened to you was wrong," an older gentleman told her. "I'm sorry none of us spoke up sooner." "You handled that with incredible grace," a young woman added. "I would have lost my cool 10 minutes in." Their words were kind but did little to ease the devastation Jasmine felt as she gathered her own belongings. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Aiden and a final text, "Investors leaving at 3. Say the word and I'll try one last pitch without you." Jasmine texted back. "Do your best. I'm still grounded in Atlanta." As she followed the line of deplaning passengers, Jasmine maintained her professional composure. But inside, she felt the weight of a truth that had followed her throughout her career: even when you're right, even when you win the immediate battle, the system is designed so that you still lose the war. In the crowded terminal, passengers from the grounded flight dispersed in various directions, many heading to customer service to arrange alternative travel. Jasmine stood to the side, phone pressed to her ear as she tried to reach Aiden again to coordinate a last-ditch effort to salvage the investor meeting. "Ms. Reynolds?" Jasmine turned to find a well-dressed Asian man in his 40s approaching her. His airline badge identified him as Victor Chen, customer service manager. "I'm Victor Chen," he confirmed, extending his hand. "I need to personally apologize for what happened on that flight. It was completely unacceptable." Jasmine shook his hand, surprised by the proactive approach. "Thank you, but unfortunately, an apology doesn't solve my immediate problem. I have a critical investor meeting in San Francisco that I'm now going to miss." Victor nodded gravely. "I'm aware of your situation. I was monitoring the security feed when the incident occurred. What Mr. Armstrong did was discriminatory, and our staff's initial handling of the situation fell far short of our standards." He gestured toward a door marked Airline Club Lounge. "Please, come with me. We have a private room where you can make your business calls while we work on a solution." Jasmine followed him into the luxurious lounge and then to a small conference room equipped with a phone, refreshments, and comfortable seating. "Use this space as long as you need," Victor offered. "I'm going to see what we can do about getting you to San Francisco as quickly as possible. Have you ever had someone unexpectedly stand up for you when you needed it most?" Comment 1: If you believe in karma and that good deeds eventually come back around. Hit that like button if you've been waiting to see Jasmine finally get some justice in this situation. Alone in the quiet room, Jasmine immediately called Aiden. "Jazz. What's happening?" Aiden's voice was tense with worry. "The flight was grounded. Everyone had to deplane because of the incident," Jasmine explained quickly. "Where are the investors now?" "Still here, but not happy," Aiden replied. "Lawrence Patterson keeps checking his watch and making comments about Apex Tech's proposal." "Put me on speaker," Jasmine instructed, taking a deep breath to center herself. "Ms. Reynolds," Lawrence Patterson's deep voice came through the phone, impatience evident in his tone. "While I sympathize with your travel difficulties, we have a tight schedule to maintain." "Mr. Patterson," Jasmine began, "I understand completely. My company has developed cutting-edge AI technology that could revolutionize your portfolio. The only thing standing between you and this opportunity is one man's racist behavior on an airplane." There was a pause before Lawrence responded. "That's a bold statement." "It's the truth," Jasmine stated firmly. "I was denied my assigned seat by a white man who then made explicitly racist comments when I didn't back down. The incident escalated to the point where security had to remove him from the plane." The door to the conference room opened, and Miguel Hernandez stepped in, giving Jasmine an encouraging nod. She put her hand over the phone briefly. "Miguel? What are you doing here?" "I overheard you mention investors," he explained quietly. "I thought I might help verify your story since I witnessed everything." Jasmine nodded gratefully and returned to the call. "Mr. Patterson, I have another passenger from the flight with me who witnessed the entire incident. He's the CTO of Tectonic Software, one of our clients." She gestured for Miguel to come closer to the phone. Hello, Mr. Patterson. I'm Miguel Hernandez, CTO at Tectonic. We've been using Phoenix Innovations AI solutions for the past 18 months with extraordinary results. What happened on that plane today was one of the most blatant examples of discrimination I've ever witnessed. Ms. Reynolds handled it with remarkable professionalism despite the extreme provocation. Lawrence's tone shifted slightly. I appreciate the context, Mr. Hernandez. The door opened again, and Diana Thompson entered, followed by Victor Chen. The airline staff directed me here, Diana explained. I wanted to check that you're all right, dear. Jasmine quickly introduced Diana to the investors on the phone. Judge Thompson witnessed the entire incident and was instrumental in standing up for what was right. Diana leaned toward the phone. Gentlemen, in my 32 years on the federal bench, I developed a keen eye for character. Ms. Reynolds demonstrated exceptional grace under pressure today while being subjected to treatment that would have caused most people to lose their composure entirely. Victor stepped forward with news. Ms. Reynolds, I've been reviewing Mr. Armstrong's travel history with our airline. This isn't the first incident he's been involved in. There are 3 previous complaints from female passengers, 2 of whom were women of color, about his behavior on flights. Jasmine's eyes widened at this revelation. Victor continued, our CEO, Andrea Montgomery, would like to speak with you. May I connect her? Jasmine nodded, and Victor used the conference room phone to make the connection. Ms. Reynolds. This is Andrea Montgomery. The voice was warm but authoritative. I've been briefed on the incident involving Mr. Armstrong. First, let me offer our sincerest apologies for how you were treated. It's completely unacceptable. Thank you, Ms. Montgomery, Jasmine replied. I understand you have an urgent business meeting in San Francisco, Andrea continued. We would like to offer you a private charter flight to get you there as quickly as possible. It's the least we can do under the circumstances. Jasmine was momentarily speechless. A private charter would get her to San Francisco in time for the meeting after all. Lawrence Patterson, still on Jasmine's phone, had clearly overheard. That's an impressive response from the airline, he commented, his tone notably warmer. Ms. Reynolds, given these extraordinary circumstances, we're willing to delay our meeting until your arrival. Your handling of this situation has actually given us additional insight into your character as a leader. Have you ever seen a situation completely turn around just when all seemed lost? What do you think of how the airline is handling things now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thank you, Mr. Patterson, Jasmine replied, relief washing over her. I appreciate your flexibility. After ending the call with the investors, Jasmine turned to Victor. A private charter? That's incredibly generous. Victor nodded. Ms. Montgomery believes in making things right. Mr. Armstrong's behavior reflects a pattern we're committed to addressing. We'll have you on your way within the hour. I'll be providing a formal statement about the incident, Diana added. Including the airline's initial mishandling and their commendable recovery efforts. Miguel smiled. Phoenix Innovations AI has saved our company countless hours and millions of dollars. I'm happy to have played a small part in ensuring your meeting happens. As they made arrangements for the charter flight, Victor shared another revelation. You should know, Ms. Reynolds, that several female executives have apparently discussed Mr. Armstrong's behavior for years. It was something of an open secret in certain circles, warnings about not sitting near him on flights, avoiding him at conferences. Today might finally be the day someone took a stand that sticks. Jasmine felt a complex mix of emotions, relief that her meeting was saved, gratitude for the unexpected allies who had emerged, and a bone-deep exhaustion from having fought yet another battle that shouldn't have been necessary in the first place. Thank you all, she said simply. For seeing what was happening and speaking up. It wasn't over yet. She still had an investor meeting to nail. But for the first time since boarding that morning, Jasmine felt the weight on her shoulders lighten just a little. The private charter was a sleek Gulfstream G650, typically reserved for the airline's most elite customers. As Jasmine settled into one of the luxurious leather seats, she finally had a moment to process the whirlwind of events. "We'll be taking off in approximately 15 minutes, Ms. Reynolds," the flight attendant informed her. "The flight time to San Francisco will be about 4 hours. Is there anything you need before departure?" "Just some water and a quiet space to work, thank you," Jasmine replied, already opening her laptop. With the cabin to herself, Jasmine used the time to refine her presentation. The potential investors at Horizon Ventures weren't just offering funding, they were offering legitimacy, connections, and a pathway to making Phoenix Innovations a household name in artificial intelligence. As she reviewed her slides, Jasmine couldn't help but reflect on the similar battles she'd fought throughout her career. The professor at MIT who had suggested she might be more comfortable in a communications program rather than computer science. The venture capitalist who had directed all technical questions to her male intern during her first funding round. The countless times she'd been mistaken for an administrative assistant at industry conferences. Each incident had built upon the last, creating an armor of resilience she hadn't asked for but had been forced to develop. Today's confrontation with Bradley Armstrong was just the latest in a long line of reminders that no matter how successful she became, some people would always see her color and gender before her accomplishments. Jasmine's phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was her grandmother. "Grandma Rose," "Hi," Jasmine answered, feeling a wave of comfort at the familiar voice. "Baby girl, I just had a feeling I should call you today. Everything all right?" Jasmine hesitated, then found herself recounting the morning's events. Her grandmother listened without interruption until she finished. Grandma Rose finally said. "Some people spend their whole lives trying to pull others down instead of lifting themselves up. But you know what? They can only stop you if you let them." "I know, Grandma. I didn't let him stop me. That's my girl. Now you go show those investors exactly why they'd be fools to miss out on what you're building." After ending the call, Jasmine noticed an email notification from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "Request for comment on viral video, CNN Business." With a sense of trepidation, Jasmine opened the email to find a request for an interview about the discriminatory incident aboard Flight 1372. The reporter mentioned that video of the confrontation was trending on social media. Quickly opening Twitter, Jasmine found Zoe's video had indeed gone viral. The hashtag #SeeJustice was trending, with thousands of comments expressing outrage at Bradley's behavior and support for Jasmine. There were also numerous posts from people sharing similar experiences of discrimination while traveling. While still absorbing this development, Jasmine's phone rang again. The caller ID showed Pinnacle Investment Group, Bradley's employer. "This is Jasmine Reynolds," she answered cautiously. "Ms. Reynolds, this is Howard Keller, Chief Compliance Officer at Pinnacle. I'm calling regarding an incident involving our employee, Bradley Armstrong." "Yes." Jasmine replied neutrally. "We've become aware of a video circulating online that shows Mr. Armstrong engaged in behavior that violates our code of conduct. I wanted to personally reach out to express that his actions and statements in no way reflect the values of Pinnacle Investment Group. We're conducting an internal investigation and taking appropriate action." It was a carefully worded non-apology designed to protect the company from liability, but the message was clear: Bradley Armstrong was in serious trouble. After ending the call, Jasmine decided to decline all media requests for now. She needed to focus on the investor meeting, not become the face of yet another viral discrimination story. She could address the incident publicly after securing the funding. As she returned to her presentation preparation, Jasmine received several text messages from other Black female executives she knew, all sharing similar experiences and expressing solidarity. "Saw the video. Been there so many times. You handled it with grace. Tatiana, that man picked the wrong CEO to mess with. Go get that funding. Kendra, this is why I always board last. Too exhausting to deal with these situations. Proud of you for standing your ground. Michelle, the messages reinforced what Jasmine already knew, her experience wasn't unique or even unusual. What was unusual was that this time there had been consequences for the perpetrator. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. Ms. Reynolds, we're beginning our descent into San Francisco. Current local time is 1:35 p.m., and we'll be on the ground in approximately 20 minutes. Perfect timing. She would make the rescheduled meeting with Horizon Ventures with time to spare. As Jasmine gathered her materials, her phone pinged with a text from Victor Chen, Airline Board approved new anti-discrimination training program for all flight crew, effective immediately. Your experience is already creating positive change. A small smile formed on Jasmine's lips. Perhaps some good would come from this after all. The charter touched down smoothly at San Francisco International Airport. As Jasmine deplaned, she was met by a driver holding a sign with her name. Ms. Reynolds. I'm your executive transport to Horizon Ventures. We'll have you there in 30 minutes. As the car pulled away from the private aviation terminal, Jasmine checked social media one last time. Bradley Armstrong's name was now trending separately from the incident hashtag, with users sharing stories about his past behavior and speculating about his employment status. Justice, it seemed, moved at the speed of the internet these days. Jasmine put her phone away and centered herself. The morning's battle was over. Now it was time to win the war, securing the funding that would take Phoenix Innovations to the next level. No matter what obstacles arose, she would not be moved from her rightful place. Not on an airplane, and not in the tech industry. The sleek glass headquarters of Horizon Ventures stood 42 stories high in downtown San Francisco, a testament to the wealth and influence housed within. As Jasmine's car pulled up to the entrance, she spotted a familiar figure waiting in the lobby, Lawrence Patterson himself, the notoriously tough lead investor who rarely greeted visitors personally. Ms. Reynolds, he called as she entered, extending his hand. Glad you could make it despite the extraordinary circumstances. Jasmine shook his hand firmly. Thank you for accommodating the schedule change, Mr. Patterson. I appreciate your flexibility. Please, call me Lawrence, he replied, guiding her toward the elevators. I must admit, when your assistant first explained the situation, I was skeptical. Then I saw the video. The elevator whisked them upward, and Lawrence continued. In 30 years of investing, I've developed a theory that how someone handles unexpected crises tells you more about their leadership capabilities than any prepared presentation. Jasmine nodded. I believe that too. Though I would have preferred a different type of test today. No doubt, Lawrence agreed as the elevator doors opened to the 38th floor. The committee is waiting. And I should mention, we've invited a few additional observers after this morning's events. The boardroom was larger than Jasmine had anticipated, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the bay. Around the massive oval table sat the 5-person investment committee she'd been expecting, but also nearly a dozen others she hadn't. Everyone, Lawrence announced, this is Jasmine Reynolds, CEO of Phoenix Innovations. As murmurs of greeting filled the room, Lawrence continued. Before Ms. Reynolds begins her presentation, I should explain that many of us watched the video of the incident on her flight this morning. For those who haven't seen it, Ms. Reynolds was subjected to discriminatory behavior while attempting to board her flight to meet with us today. Would you hit that like button if you're proud of how Jasmine has handled this situation so far? Leave a comment with 1 if you've ever been underestimated and then proved everyone wrong. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories about extraordinary people overcoming discrimination with dignity and strength. A slender woman in her 50s, Patricia Winters, the only female member of the core investment committee, spoke up. I've asked several of our portfolio company CEOs to join us today, Ms. Reynolds. The incident on your flight raised important questions about how we evaluate leadership and resilience. Jasmine took a deep breath and moved to the front of the room. Thank you for the introduction. While this morning's events were unfortunate, they're not what I came to discuss today. I'm here because Phoenix Innovations has developed AI technology that will transform how businesses make decisions. With that, she launched into her presentation. The slides were polished, the data compelling, but Jasmine found herself adding a personal element she hadn't planned, connecting her experience as a Black woman in tech to the company's mission. The core problem with current AI systems, she explained, displaying a complex algorithm on the screen, is that they're built with inherent biases that mirror the limitations of their creators. At Phoenix, we've developed a self-correcting system that actively identifies and compensates for these biases. She clicked to the next slide. This isn't just theoretical. When we tested our system against leading competitors, Phoenix AI made more balanced decisions across demographic groups, leading to better outcomes for businesses and customers alike. Lawrence leaned forward, his interest clearly piqued. And you believe this difference stems from your team's diverse perspectives? Absolutely, Jasmine confirmed. Our development team includes people from various backgrounds, genders, and ethnicities. We've built our AI to recognize patterns that homogeneous teams might miss. She hadn't planned to draw such a direct line between this morning's discrimination and her company's value proposition, but the connection was undeniable. The very biases that had led Bradley Armstrong to assume she didn't belong in first class were the same types of assumptions that flawed most AI systems. To give you a concrete example, Jasmine continued, when we partnered with Medicor Healthcare last year, our AI identified treatment recommendation disparities across racial groups that their previous system had missed entirely. After implementing our solution, patient outcomes improved by 22% among previously underserved populations. For the next 45 minutes, Jasmine answered increasingly technical questions from the committee members, never once faltering despite her exhausting day. The additional observers, CEOs from Horizon's portfolio companies, asked particularly incisive questions about scalability and market application. As the formal presentation concluded, Patricia Winter spoke up again. Ms. Reynolds, I hope you don't mind my saying this, but I've been in similar situations to what you experienced this morning. Not on planes, but in boardrooms much like this one. Several committee members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The difference, Patricia continued, is that 20 years ago, there would have been no video, no witnesses willing to speak up, and certainly no consequences for the Bradley Armstrongs of the world. You handled that situation with extraordinary poise, and I believe it speaks volumes about how you would handle challenges as a portfolio company CEO. Lawrence nodded in agreement. The committee will need to deliberate, of course. Would you mind stepping out for a few minutes while we discuss? Of course, Jasmine replied, gathering her materials. In the waiting area outside the boardroom, Jasmine finally allowed herself to feel the full weight of the day's events. The discrimination, the confrontation, the threat to her company's future, and now, potentially, a transformative investment that would validate everything she'd built. 20 minutes later, Lawrence opened the boardroom door. His expression was serious, giving away nothing. Ms. Reynolds, we've reached a decision. Jasmine stood, her heart pounding but her exterior calm. As she re-entered the boardroom, she noted that all conversation had stopped, all eyes were on her. Lawrence remained standing as she took her seat. At Horizon Ventures, we pride ourselves on recognizing exceptional talent and supporting transformative technologies. Your presentation today was impressive on both technical and business fronts. He paused, and Jasmine felt a moment of dread. Had the morning's drama somehow overshadowed her company's potential? Then Lawrence broke into a broad smile. We would like to offer Phoenix Innovations an investment of $75 million in exchange for a 15% equity stake. Jasmine blinked in surprise. $75 million. The initial discussion was for $50 million. Patricia Winters leaned forward. The additional $25 million reflects our confidence in both your technology and your leadership, Ms. Reynolds. After seeing how you handled this morning's situation, we believe you have what it takes to build not just a successful company, but a transformative one." For the first time all day, Jasmine felt tears threatening to form. She blinked them back quickly, maintaining her professional composure. "Thank you," she said simply. "Phoenix Innovations is honored to partner with Horizon Ventures. We won't let you down." As contracts were brought in for preliminary signing, Lawrence approached her privately. "I owe you an apology, Jasmine. When your assistant first called about the delay, I was less than understanding. I made assumptions about your professionalism that were entirely unfounded." "Thank you for acknowledging that," Jasmine replied. "In my experience, it's not about never making mistakes, it's about being willing to recognize and correct them." Lawrence nodded thoughtfully. "A philosophy that applies equally well to AI systems and to people, it seems." As champagne was brought in to celebrate the new partnership, Jasmine allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. The day that had begun with a fight for her rightful seat had ended with her claiming an even more important one, at the table where the future of technology would be decided. 3 months after the fateful flight from Atlanta, Jasmine stood in her expanded office at Phoenix Innovations headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the Atlanta skyline, now including a building with the company's Phoenix logo illuminated at night, their new research facility, made possible by the Horizon Ventures investment. On the wall-mounted screen, a CNN business report played with the sound muted. The headline at the bottom read, "Bradley Armstrong terminated from Pinnacle Investment Group following discrimination investigation." Jasmine wasn't surprised. In the weeks following the incident, 3 former colleagues of Armstrong had come forward with similar stories of discrimination and harassment. What had begun as a dispute over an airline seat had uncovered a pattern of behavior that had gone unchecked for years. Her executive assistant, Aidan, knocked on the open door. "The conference room is ready for the board meeting. And Judge Thompson called to confirm lunch tomorrow." "Thank you, Aidan. Did she mention any updates on the case?" "Yes, actually. She said the civil rights organization's lawsuit against the airline is establishing new precedent for how airlines must handle discrimination incidents. Apparently, they're citing your case specifically in their legal briefs." Jasmine nodded thoughtfully. While she had declined to sue the airline personally, their response after the initial mishandling had been exemplary. She supported the broader effort to create systemic change. "Also," Aidan continued, "there's someone in reception asking to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but says it's important." "A Brittany Walker?" Jasmine froze momentarily. The name instantly transported her back to that morning on the plane, to the flight attendant who had initially sided with Bradley. Send her up, Jasmine decided after a moment's consideration. Minutes later, a nervous-looking Brittany Walker entered Jasmine's office. She looked different out of her airline uniform, younger, less confident. "Ms. Reynolds, thank you for seeing me," she began, her voice slightly trembling. "I've been trying to work up the courage to come here for weeks." "Please, sit down," Jasmine offered, gesturing to the seating area by the windows rather than keeping the desk between them. "What can I do for you?" Brittany took a deep breath. "I came to apologize. My handling of the situation on that flight was inexcusable. I let biases I didn't even realize I had affect my judgment, and I failed to do my job properly." Jasmine studied the young woman, noting the genuine remorse in her expression. "What happened after the incident?" "I was suspended initially," Brittany explained. "Then the airline offered me a choice, termination or additional training and a position working with their new diversity initiative. I chose the latter. It's been eye-opening." "In what way?" Jasmine asked, genuinely curious. "I always thought of myself as not racist," Brittany explained, making air quotes. "But the training helped me see how many unconscious biases I carried. When I saw you and Mr. Armstrong, I automatically assumed he belonged in first class and you didn't. I never questioned why I made that assumption. Have you ever had a moment where you realized your own unconscious biases? Comment 1 if you believe people deserve second chances when they genuinely learn from their mistakes. And if you're inspired by Jasmine's journey from discrimination to triumph, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge how we see the world. Jasmine nodded, appreciating the honesty. Recognition is the first step toward change. The airline has completely revamped its training program, Brittany continued. Every employee now goes through extensive bias recognition exercises. They're using the video from your flight as a teaching tool, with all faces blurred except Mr. Armstrong's, since he's become the public face of the case. And how are you finding your new role? Jasmine asked. Challenging. Important. Brittany smiled slightly. I never thought a mistake would lead to the most meaningful work I've ever done. That's why I came today. Not just to apologize, but to thank you for handling the situation the way you did. You could have demanded I be fired, but instead, your actions created an opportunity for growth. Jasmine considered this perspective. She had never viewed her response as merciful, she had simply been focused on her immediate goal of getting to San Francisco. I appreciate you coming here today, Brittany, she said finally. It takes courage to face someone you've wronged. As Brittany left, Aiden reminded Jasmine about the company milestone celebration scheduled for that afternoon. Phoenix Innovations was marking its first quarter with the new investment, and the results had exceeded even the most optimistic projections. The company auditorium was filled with employees, partners, and special guests. Jasmine spotted Miguel Hernandez, whose company had not only continued using Phoenix AI but had become a valuable development partner. Victor Chen and Andrea Montgomery from the airline were there too, having formed a business relationship with Phoenix to use their AI for customer service optimization. As Jasmine took the stage, she looked out at the diverse faces of her team, the brilliant minds who had built something revolutionary together. 6 months ago, she began, Phoenix Innovations was at a crossroads. We had developed world-changing technology but needed the resources to bring it to scale. She smiled at Patricia Winters, who had joined Phoenix's board of directors after the investment. Today, I'm proud to announce that our first quarter revenue has exceeded projections by 32%. Our AI system has been adopted by 17 new enterprise clients, and we've been named one of the top 5 most innovative companies by Tech Vanguard magazine. Applause filled the room, but Jasmine raised her hand for quiet. This success isn't just about technology or business metrics. It's about persistence. About standing your ground when someone tries to take your seat, literally or figuratively. A knowing chuckle rippled through the audience, many of whom were familiar with the incident, as it had come to be known. Today, I'm especially proud to announce the Reynolds Scholarship for underrepresented students in AI, Jasmine continued. Named in honor of my grandmother, Rose Reynolds, who taught me that standing tall isn't just about posture, it's about spirit. This program will provide full tuition and mentorship to 5 students annually who might otherwise not have access to education in artificial intelligence. The celebration continued well into the evening, with partners and employees sharing stories of their own journeys. Throughout it all, Jasmine felt a sense of rightness, of having not just overcome an obstacle but having transformed it into a stepping stone. 2 weeks later, Jasmine found herself boarding another flight to San Francisco, this time for the annual AI Summit where she would be delivering a keynote address. As she approached the first-class cabin, a young flight attendant greeted her with a warm smile. "It's an honor to have you aboard, Ms. Reynolds. Your seat is ready whenever you are." Jasmine settled into 2A, opening her laptop to review her keynote one last time. The screen displayed Phoenix Innovations' latest achievement, a $100 million revenue projection for the coming year, double their initial target. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Jasmine reflected on how much had changed since that morning 3 months ago. What Bradley Armstrong and others like him never understood was that their attempts to deny people like her a seat at the table didn't prevent the inevitable, they merely gave her a better story to tell when she took her rightful place. The incident had reinforced a truth Jasmine had always known: the fight wasn't just about a seat on a plane. It was about changing who got to sit at the tables where decisions were made, technologies were created, and the future was shaped. And that was a victory worth every battle along the way. Jasmine's story teaches us that true leadership isn't just shown in boardrooms but in how we respond to discrimination. When faced with injustice, standing your ground can create ripple effects far beyond the immediate situation. What appeared to be simply about a seat was actually about dignity, respect, and challenging a system that too often gives some people the benefit of the doubt while questioning others based on appearance. The witnesses who eventually stood up for Jasmine remind us that bystanders have power. Diana, Miguel, and Zoe demonstrate how speaking truth to power can help turn the tide against discrimination. Meanwhile, Brittany's transformation shows that growth is possible when people confront their biases honestly. Perhaps most importantly, this story illustrates how discrimination doesn't occur in isolation, it has real consequences for careers, businesses, and lives. Bradley's attempt to assert dominance nearly cost Jasmine a $50 million deal. For many victims of racism without Jasmine's resources or status, such incidents can have devastating professional consequences with no private charter flight to save the day. By transforming her experience into greater success and opportunities for others, Jasmine exemplifies resilience in its highest form. Have you witnessed discrimination and chosen to speak up or stay silent? What factors influenced your decision? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button to help others find it. Subscribe for more powerful stories about overcoming injustice, and share this video with someone who needs to understand the real impact of everyday discrimination. Thank you for listening with an open heart, and remember, change happens when we refuse to accept the unacceptable.